And this is the situation that they've made up, which is that reality consists of only oppressors and
Oh,
oppressed.
yeah. Yeah. I
And
was wondering where you're going with that. Yeah.
Israel has the privilege, therefore they are the oppressors. Why are they? Well, because that's how we've defined them. We've defined them as the oppressors. We've defined them as the ones with privilege. Therefore,
Welcome to the Wokepedia podcast. The Wokepedia podcast is a ministry of, or a project of, enemies within the church. But we've got a new website for you to go to check out, and that is ewtcnews.com. Let me give that to you again. It's ewtcnews.com. And this is our new home for our website. Now, you can still go and find the documentary there, a link to take you there so that you can buy that documentary of enemies within the church, which we would wholeheartedly suggest that you do that. But on this website, you can find all of our articles and all of our, well, podcasts and all of our social media things, anything you could ever want, at least as it concerning to Wokepedia and enemies within the church. You can find it right there on our website. So once again, go check out ewtcnews.com. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited to be here. I am so thrilled with the new website. I'm thrilled with the response that it's got so far. We've just done a kind of a soft launch over the past week and a half, 2 weeks ish. Um, and it's been going really well. We've got a lot of good content. We've got a steady stream of content being produced, and people are reading it, which is exciting. It's exciting to work on something, put it out there, and it be received well.
Yeah.
And, just to see it actually function the way that it's supposed to. So yeah, I'm in high spirits right now.
Yeah, I'm super excited, especially with where things are going, the way things are, and the way that they're looking right now. I mean, it is a beautiful website, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But before we do, I mean, I am just gonna kind of throw this out here. We're gonna be talking about CTT today, and
Mm.
I mean, I'm pretty excited to talk about some CTT.
Oh yeah, I am excited to talk about CTT. And if you have no idea what that means, it's because we made it up.
That's
It's
right.
critical terrorist theory. What is critical terrorist theory? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. Although I think, based on the timing of things, a few people have already, kind of deduced what we're going to be discussing. There's been some shocking things said online, but here's the important thing: consistent.
That's right.
If you have a belief system, it's going to leak into every aspect of your life. It's a system. It's not a single idea. This is one of the reasons that we warn about wokeness, is because it doesn't stay at race. It doesn't stay at gender. It doesn't stay at sexuality. I mean, we already talked about things that are already problematic enough, but it's going to affect everything. It is a religion. It will take over your life. It is a worldview. But Sam, let's go look at a couple of articles from the website. So we'll start with this one here. Now, obviously, some people are listening audio, so we're going to describe this. Article is breaking. JD Greear teams up with He Gets Us campaign. Now, breaking is not used there idly. I have not been able to find information about this anywhere else. Anywhere else. Um, and now, Sam, just super briefly, what's the He Gets Us campaign?
Yeah, so the He Gets His campaign is a completely awoke campaign, of course, that is claiming the name of Christ. If you want to find out more on this article, we actually have a video where we really go in great detail, probably more detail than anybody else has, and really break down the He Gets His campaign, looking at all kinds of quotes. Great research that was done there by Kyle. I mean, Kyle just did an awesome job on that research. But also with the He Gets His campaign, I believe they're saying now that they're boasting that they're $1 billion campaign. It's all about trying to make Jesus relevant again, as Jesus is, he's pretty relevant. He is the judge of the earth and the creator of all things. So I don't know how we need to make him relevant again. But where's this connection with JD Greear? Why is that a problem? Where do the things seem to match up, Kyle?
Well, the connection is he did a video for their engaging culture series, which has a lot of other problematic faces in it, and we're going to be going
Yeah.
over all of that in a follow up article. We even reached out to JD himself to get some clarifying comments on. Um, but yeah, so the partnership is not that direct in the sense of he's not an ambassador for them, but he's
Right.
producing content for them. And as someone who's listened to the content, it's not necessarily super bad content by any means, especially not by he gets us standards. But the question is, why are you partnering with something that radically disagrees with your entire view of who Jesus is? That disagrees with your view on human sexuality, supposedly. I think there's some questions about that with JD Greear, as we've covered. But eh, this is not something that agrees with you. Why would you partner with them? That's a problem.
Right. Yeah. And I, I mean, it just kind of fits JD Greear there. He seems to have an allegiance to want to be relevant more than he does uh, any kind of fidelity to the truth. But what's the next article we've got up there? Because it feels like we're going backwards in time a little bit on this next one. I think. Are we going with ERLC?
Yep. And we'll just, again, we want you to go to the website, ewtcnews.com. Read these articles for yourself so you get the full content. We're not going to do this every week of just browsing the website and its articles, but we want to get you comfortable and familiar with it. So this one is ERLC, the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention, calls race a gospel issue in 2023. This is not something that happened, in 2020. This is something that just happened the other week. And they did an interview with Ramney Perez of Fordham Community Church in New York City. And in it, the charge was that race is a gospel issue, and specifically a critical race theory take on things. And so it kind of shows that all of the woke stuff, that people can kind of have a misconception and say, oh, well, that was 2020. That was 2020, 2021, maybe. It hasn't gone away, and it really hasn't even died down. It continues on unhindered.
Right.
I mean, Sam, have you seen that, Sam? Have you seen that? Have you seen a dip down in things, or is it in reality been continuing at the same rate?
Kyle, I think that's a really good question because it's continuing at the same rate, perhaps even speeding up. It's just it tends to be a little bit more under the surface, a little bit more carefully placed, under the surface or into things. Maybe not quite as up in front, or some leaders before have been distanced from. But it's still right there, and it's still a
Yeah,
battle that we have, and it is really important that we stand up against what is happening still.
yeah.
Now, now, I think we've just got one more to kind of highlight here.
Yep, we've got one more article. This one is Christianity Today promotes progressive churches' stained glass windows, glorifying social justice. This article hasn't been published at the moment of recording. It's going to be going out uh, tonight, which means that by the time you're listening to this podcast, it will be live. Um, Now, you might have heard, Sam, did you hear about Washington National Cathedral? And they replaced their some of their stained glass windows depicting Southern figures in the post-war Civil War era. Um, and from what I understand, was meant to be about symbolizing and showing the restoration of the nation.
Right.
They replaced them with social justice stained glass windows.
You know, the nice thing is about this is that at least the woke are being honest in their actions about venerating who they're viewing as saints, and that it is truly a different religion that they're coming out and that they're doing. And we could see that with these stained glass windows. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for this one because this is just an interesting one to look at.
And it's a good little article. Now I know a lot of you may have already heard about this. Why we did an article on it wasn't the stained glass windows themselves. It's that just last week, Christianity Today did a podcast promoting
Right.
this stained glass window thing, promoting Washington National Cathedral, who, as the article will lay out for you, they deny inerrancy. Uh, they'll ordain gay pastors. I think they have female gay pastors. Um, they'll do same sex weddings. They denounce America, promote CRT ideas, say that um, America's original sin is racism, call for reparations, talk about the stolen land that their building is on, which is kind of funny because then they don't give back the land, promote a climate agenda, and promote interfaith worship. So doesn't matter what your beliefs are, doesn't matter if you're Christian or Islam or whatever. This is a house for everyone to worship in.
Yeah, pretty woke there. And
Yeah,
one thing I will just point out one more article, just really briefly, and that's just a news, not even an article. It's just a news alert, and that's just so that you know that not all of the news is always going to be negative news. Pastor Dusty Devers won the Oklahoma Senate seat, number 32, state Senate seat 32. Sorry, he won the primary. He won the
I was going to
primary.
correct you on that.
He won the primary, although from what I understand, winning the Republican primary is probably more of a challenge than winning the seat itself. But we don't want to count chicks before they're hatched, and so we would definitely encourage you to go and support Reverend Dusty Devers down there, and you can find out a little bit more about that. But just a good news alert. Not everything that's happening in this world is terrible, just most of it. But there are some bright spots here every once in a while, and that is definitely a bright spot. And so that's good. But remember, check out the website, and I think you're going to enjoy the news. I know I am. I'm enjoying it. So ewtcnews.com. But Kyle, it's that time. We have to talk about CTT.
Ooh, we have to talk about CTT,
Now, remind
which
me what is CTT again? Because we made it up.
critical terrorist theory.
Now, we didn't make up
And
that it's happening. We just made up the term. I should say
yes,
that.
yes, and we're poking fun at the woke nonsense, but the
Right.
the subject matter itself is gravely serious. And we're going to be also producing an article around this as well. Uh, but until then, we wanted to get this discussion out there because it's revealing, a few shocking points. Now, we're going to look at a few things, and it's going to go from the more radical, progressive side of things and hone in more towards the evangelical world. Um, but we've got a tweet here from Reverend Doctor, which is just my favorite thing when someone puts two titles in front of their name. Um, Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, um, who is a very, if we can say Christian at all, very, very radical progressive on that end of the spectrum. As I've been thinking about all of the violence and loss of life we've been seeing over the past couple days, talking in reference to terrorists attacking in Israel, I remembered this sermon I preached a couple of years ago, right after domestic terrorists tried to overthrow our government on January 6th. All terrorists, those who attack our capital, those who attack Jews in Israel, and those who drip a daily dose of terror on Palestinians, deserve our criticism, our outrage, and our demands for peace. Now, Sam, do you see two big problems, glaring issues with what she's doing here?
Well, only two. Only two. No. Uh, yeah, one for each title, I believe, that she has there. And no, I actually can't believe that. First of all, I don't know which one's the elephant in the room, but um, really comparing what happened on January 6th to what is happening in the Middle East. I mean, that's just completely outrageous. Just completely outrageous to go into to say that. I mean, that is I it's so ridiculous. I don't even have words for it. And or not very nice ones anyway. And the other thing is that what is this at the very end here? And those who drip a daily dose of terror on Palestinians. What is that being aimed at? Is that being aimed at the Jews in Jerusalem who would be going or in Israel who'd be going and responding, or is that on those who are simply coming out against this attack that happened? Is that what she's getting at? I'm not exactly sure, but either way, it's absolutely ridiculous and it's absolutely wrong when we go and we look at this. And undoubtedly, this is what we would call critical terrorist theory because what it's going and doing is it is criticizing essentially the way that we would actually go and describe what a legitimate terrorist is. And so it is this critical terrorist theory. It is this concept of going and absolutely doing what is wrong here. I mean, what she's saying is absolutely ridiculous. It's not true whatsoever, and I cannot believe, Kyle, that she is going out here and saying a daily dose of terror on the Palestinians. But which one do you think it is? Do you think that she's coming out here saying this towards the Jews defending themselves, or do you think that she's coming out here saying those who would go and say it was wrong for Palestine to kill the Jews? Which one do you think she's aiming that at?
Those who drip a daily dose of terror on Palestinians?
Yeah,
I those words seem pretty pointed to me. I don't think there's really any way you could perceive that other than saying that she's calling Israel terrorists.
right.
She's calling the Jews terrorists for defending their own land and their own people.
Yeah, I mean it's the idea of going and saying self defense is wrong.
Yeah. It, yeah. Uh, before too many more comments are made on that, let's continue on to the next one. Now, this caused a little bit of a stir. Shockingly, even got them to slow down. Not back. Backing off implies that you're actually doing some degree of
Yeah,
something close to, at least close to retraction. Slow down implies that you're okay with what you did.
yeah,
But this got a lot of coverage. So what this is, it's from BLM Chicago, Black Lives Matter Chicago, their Chicago chapter, says that is all that it is. It and it is a picture of someone paratrooping in, parachuting in with a Palestinian flag, and says, "I stand with Palestine." Oof, oof!
that's
Like the
straight up.
design of it,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's straight up promotion of terrorism,
it,
support of it.
not even that. It's promoting. It's directly promoting Palestinian, I hate that term. It's a made up term, but
Yeah.
uh, it's directly promoting Arabs to rise up and invade Israel.
Yes.
It is a someone parachuting in the context of a military situation.
Yeah.
What is that a direct symbol for? I support an invasion.
Right. And this is further. This goes further than saying that I don't support Israel defending themselves. That's wrong. When you if you have that view, that is a wrong view. But this is going further than that. This is saying I support someone attacking Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. Now let's touch in with another Black Lives Matter organization. Now, it can be very hard to decipher how all of these are connected. This one's from Black Lives Matter Grassroots.
You
Um,
you know, and can I just say one of the most frustrating things about Black Lives Matter is when you're going and you're Facebook stalking somebody to try to figure out, they added you on as a friend or something like that, and you're trying to like figure out something about them. And you look at their profile picture, and you sit there for 15 seconds waiting for your phone to load, and you realize no, this was just the Black Lives Matter riot, and they had a blacked out screen. That is so frustrating to me. Sorry, just had to vent that, Kyle. Just had to vent that.
yeah, yeah. No, I know what you.
I,
It's sad
I
that I know what you mean.
yeah, I'm
Um,
oppressed. I'm oppressed.
well, let's read this one. Now, this goes into a four-part image, and all four parts are just as bad. But I didn't want to spend too much time because I think this gets it
Yeah,
across. But it says, "Black Lives Matter grassroots statement in solidarity with the Palestinian people." Uh, as the world is faced with deep questions about self determination, as we all desire and pray for a world of peace, irony, we must stand unwaveringly on the side of the oppressed. When a people have been subject to decades of apartheid and unimaginable violence, their resistance must not be condemned, but understood as a desperate act of self defense. Whoa. Read the
the
room, man.
yeah, I can agree
I'm going to clip that
that
right there. You didn't say anything else fast enough. I'm going to clip it and just going to say that you agree.
I can agree that some of the Arabs, the Palestinians, however they want to say it here, have been subject to unimaginable violence, but it's been by their own leaders.
Yeah, Hamas is not it, Hamas is not a good organization.
It,
And you
it,
want to talk about the Palestinian people? They do, there is no united Palestine in Palestine because of Hamas. In the West Bank, they don't like Hamas. They see them as like it defies its own internal logic. It's so painful. Now, Sam, I know a lot of people are they're struggling with a couple things, and we don't really have the time to go into all of this. But one thing I will say is the Jews are not Christians.
that's true. That is true.
I There's a theological element of things that we do need to acknowledge, but when we're talking about bodies in the street, the theological difference between a Jew and a Christian is not the important thing here. Now, it is important in one aspect of it is we need to, as we support a nation that is under a attack, one of the best ways we can support is through preaching the gospel.
Sure, absolutely,
Like
absolutely.
we should be doing that.
Yeah, we should
But
definitely send
that's
missionaries to Israel.
yeah, and that's a very very tough country to try and do missions work in.
Hmm.
But again, we're talking about bodies in the street. Now,
Well,
it,
babies in the womb aren't Christians,
yeah,
and yet there's an undeniable call to going and standing against the murder of babies inside the womb. That's something that we can understand, and it's not
yeah,
just in our nation, but it's in every nation. We're against abortion. in every nation around the world. It's wrong,
Amen.
it's evil, and we stand against it.
Amen.
The murder of innocent people, especially if they've been promised specific land by God, and their only crime is living in that land, at least according to why they're being attacked. But even like you could even take secular routes to defend this. Like you don't have to get into much theology in that sense,
Hmm.
with just that common idea of caring about the innocent.
Yeah. Yeah. It baffles my mind. And I know there's a lot of questions about some of the geopolitical things that are going on in the world right now, going on in Israel. And, people are asking questions about how did they not know about this attack and things like that. And, there's some good questions to ask there and speculate on. But it shocks me how people are then, which obviously Black Lives Matter isn't even doing anything like that. But is rape and executions in the street of innocent people, is that ever okay?
No, it's never okay.
Is there any situation that justifies that?
No, because we don't base our ethics on situations. That's that I mean that's it we have biblical laws, and
Mhm.
we need to stand up for the innocent. It, the Bible clearly teaches the existence of nation, the sovereignty of nations, which also means the support of a nation defending itself, which
Yeah.
is supporting in this case, that is supporting Israel in that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, frankly, if you believe that the Bible is what it says it is, and you believe that nations are established by God and that nations are what they are, and countries, political entities are what they are supposed to be, then yeah, you'd support the side of the legitimate country versus terrorists. Um, but again, now let's zoom towards the evangelical world. I know they fancy themselves evangelical. I don't really think that Baptist News Global actually is, but that's a whole nother thing. And they have they went for it on this issue. It's like, man, this they wanted to say something and they went for it. I decided to only pick one of the many articles, tweets from one of the many articles that they've made in response. Um, but it says, there are problems in making Hamas the devil while ignoring Israel's own horrific actions.
Y-
Okay, before you say anything, Sam, can I go back to the previous question I asked? Is there ever a time that it's okay?
Right. Yeah. Right. And this is what really frustrates me, and I feel like I've had this conversation a lot. Muslims are never the good guys. Muslim nations are never the good guys. If you look at their ideology, if you look at what they actually believe, they are anti-Christ. So let's go and just say that our goal is to make a Christian nation. Okay. I know some people don't like that concept. There's some disagreements on what that concept might mean, but let's just, in general, say that a Christian nation is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, and it would be a goal. Well, this would require an appeal to the Bible, or specifically the moral law at the very, very least. Jews, you can appeal to the moral law and they can live within a society within the moral law because you can appeal to that through the Old Testament. Muslims cannot, because they have a different law. They have Sharia law. They have a completely, totally contrary law that is about submission. And it goes all the way back to the concept of how they view God. Now, granted, Jews also miss, um, miss the right version of God, the right thing of God, because they're only getting one part of God and they're not understanding Jesus is God. I get that. But one of the big problems when it comes to Islam is that they're monotheistic in a sense that Allah is alone and there is no relationship to Allah. And so everything then is submission based and there is no relationship, there is no Godhead within Allah. It is Allah and nothing else. And so, therefore, when he goes and communicates his law, it is in submission and there is no relational aspect. There is no concept of treating your neighbor in a certain way because that's actually not within the philosophical foundation of who Allah is and when he was dreamt up by, yes, demonic entities. That was probably a little further into this than what I needed to go, but that'd be a great episode to do sometime. We should do some stuff on Islam.
Yeah, we should. We honestly should. It's a bigger issue than people really realize. But it does raise the point here of if you're going to play the game, if you're going to play the theological game, Islam loses.
Yes,
Islam loses in the situation. If you're going to play the political game, the
Islam
quote
loses.
Palestinians lose in this situation. If you're going to play the geopolitics, it, Hamas loses.
Right.
If you're going to play morality, Hamas loses again. Like there's no situation in which Hamas wins except for one. And this is the situation that they've made up, which is that reality consists of only oppressors and
Oh,
oppressed.
yeah. Yeah. I
And
was wondering where you're going with that, but yeah.
Israel has the privilege, therefore they are the oppressors. Why are they? Well, because that's how we've defined them. We've defined them as the oppressors. We've defined them as the ones with privilege. Therefore, um, no,
They never went through a Holocaust or anything like that, Kyle. So of course they couldn't be
yeah,
considered oppressed.
they're not the ones that had to repopulate this completely barren and desolate land that the Ottomans tried to make uninhabitable or anything like that, and found phenomenal ways of water irrigation and all sorts of things to. Yeah, it's not like the land was useless and worthless until it wasn't. And it's not like there's a country, an Arab country, an Islamic Arab country to the south that shares a border with Gaza that has a equally, if not tighter, border with Gaza than Israel. So, Sam, I'm going to read you. This is from one of the Baptist News Global articles. I'm just going to read this statement to you, and then let's use this as the point to get some final thoughts on CTT, critical terrorist theory,
Yeah.
making terrorists the good guys because they're the oppressed group. Um, After the horrific attacks carried out by Hamas, in which more than 1,600 people were killed and many more injured, the understandable response has been to come to the defense of the people who were attacked. True. Many American Christians, including Republicans and Democrats, have publicly declared we should stand with Israel. But the attacks on Israel over the past few days did not happen in a vacuum. They cannot be reduced to simplistic dichotomies or both sides arguments about good guys and bad guys between Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, evangelicals and non evangelicals, Israelis and Palestinians. According to the United Nations, for the coordination of humanitarian affairs in the occupied Palestinian territory, so not Israel itself, not the entire country, in the quote occupied territories. During the time of 2008 through September 2023, there have been 6,407 Palestinians killed compared to 308 Israelis in the Palestinian controlled territory. Given the disparity in the number of deaths, it seems reasonable to wonder if there is some legitimacy to Palestinian anger, even if one does not condone violence.
Um, you know, sometimes when you punch somebody, you get punched back. And Israel has been completely defensive in all of this. And that's the piece of information that they're missing. I mean, Israel could totally just go and destroy the Palestinians. They're
Yeah,
withholding because they're saying, "Stop attacking us. Stop attack." And yeah, it's ridiculous. I put a tweet out, or I don't know what they're calling it these days. I
I
put a
put an
musk
X
out.
out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I put a musk out.
Yeah, that's I like that one. I put a musk out. And I said something to the effect of, I can't believe that it needs to be said, but you know, terrorists and Marxists are bad guys. That I
Shocking.
you know, they're against Christianity, but it needs to be said. Apparently, it needs to be said in this day and age. And that I'll be honest, this is something I struggle with, is because things seem so obvious as to what's right. Because I mean, these are things that we believe. They're things that are self-evident in Scripture. It, it it's just the truth right there. And sometimes I forget we need to say the obvious truth. So, one thing I would encourage our listeners to do is to speak the obvious truth of Scripture, because our culture needs it. I think that's the best way to fight CTT.
Amen. Yeah, that's really the reality of things. Is we've got to be on the side of truth. We've got to be on the side of objective truth. We've got to be on the side of God's truth, and we've got to be willing to speak that.
Right.
It's not going to be popular in society, but if you want to break people out of a well, it should be no surprise that people that think abortion is okay think that killing people, raping people in the streets is an okay response. Like, even within their own framework, it doesn't work. But you understand it when you realize that they are okay with death. You understand it when you realize that the ultimate evil is perceived oppression. So it's not surprising. But Sam, I think we've at least covered the basics. We don't need to cover every detail here. I think that would be better served in an episode going over a more narrow topic like Islam, um, terrorism,
Mm-hmm.
politics. There's so many things you could break it down into, but I think it's the main point of there are people that are applying critical theory, that are applying wokeness to terrorism,
Right.
and they're on the side of the terrorist. It shows, one, that wokeness is here, and it's here in a big way. And two, there's no compromise on these social justice nonsense issues, because it'll, as we're seeing, it'll lead you to a point where you're like, yeah, people being murdered in the street and all these horrifying things. That's an adequate. Here's the thing: what they're saying is that's an adequate response to oppression. So what are they saying about what needs to happen? What are they saying about the BLM riots in 2020? They're saying that was the normal, and the peaceful ones were doing it wrong. They're advocating for something when they're justifying these murderous, villainous acts.
Right.
And that should terrify you that there are Christians, supposed Christians, promoting that.
And it's beyond frustrating to see that and to hear that. But that's what we're here for, and doing at Wokepedia, is exposing the woke ideology. So we want you guys to remember that. we're not trying to bring doom and gloom into your life, but we're rather just trying to expose darkness with light. And we would encourage you, of course, to contact us at Wokepedia or contactwokepedia@gmail.com. Once again, that's contactwokepedia@gmail.com. And don't forget to keep up with us at ewtcnews.com. Once again, that's ewtcnews.com. Find all of our articles, keep up to date on what's going on, and keep standing for the truth.
Yeah, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about CTT? What do you think about critical terrorist theory? Have you been noticing it yourselves? Let us know. But remember, a very important thing, if you don't want to adopt CTT, well, you better not go woke.